Salutations, people of the internet. Welcome to the database, and welcome to a new segment on this series that I would like to call Software Update, where I take a look back on certain game titles that I previously covered on this channel that received DLC content, re-releases, or have gotten ports onto different consoles or hardware. And I grade these updates on a simple scale, from upgraded to waitlisted to the bottom of the scale being opted out, meaning the extra content might not be worth your time and money, and you should look somewhere else. In this video, I'll be taking a look at the physical release of Sonic's compilation game that features additional vintage games to play on this collection, as well as a new character to play as within the 4 major Sonic games. This re-release is titled Sonic Origins Plus, a DLC-ish re-release that was released on June 23rd, 2023. This video is a follow-up to my Road to Sonic Origins marathon of the last seasonal year, in which you can check out here before heading into this one. In this physical re-release, Sega announced that with the addition of the 4 main Sonic games, 12 of Sega's lost lineup of Sonic Game Gear games are featured in this collection, definitely giving these titles their own video in the near future, so thanks Sega, more stuff for me to review. Second, and this is a big one, for the first time since the Sonic Advance series, and probably for the first time since Sonic 06, Amy Rose is now a playable character in all 4 mainline Sonic titles. Where's Mighty the Armadillo and Ready the Flying Squirrel in this collection? I have no idea. It's fine, I won't lose sleep over them. So how does Amy play in this collection? Does she play exactly like how she was back in Sonic Advance? Well, if you're expecting her to play just as similar to how she played in the Advance trilogy, don't. This is basically an interpretation as to how Amy could play in a 16-bit Sonic game. She could jump around and onto badniks as Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, but it's when you activate her ability while jumping is where her playstyle becomes somewhat unique. After jumping, you can press the action button again that lets Amy use her signature weapon of choice, the Pico Pico Hammer. Its name derived from the bonking sound effect and the Japanese onomatopoeia, at least from my interpretation. Once she pulls out her hammer, and if the player holds onto the action button, her mid-air range when it comes to bouncing on badniks increases, and once she hits one, it gives her hammer that Pico sound that I mentioned earlier. If she lands on the ground when there is no badniks in sight, she automatically moves forward and bashes into enemies in front of her. Kinda like the Sonic's drop dash, but unlike the drop dash, as she's running, you can move her left to right if you have enemies coming in behind you. Fun fact, while Amy is commonly known to use her hammer in majority of the Sonic games so far, the first appearance of the Pico Pico hammer wouldn't be brought up until the arcade game Sonic the Fighters, where she's a playable fighter there. That's neat. Much like the Team Sonic boys, Amy also has her own super form after getting all the Chaos Emeralds in Sonic 2 and 3K, titled Super Amy, or Hyper Amy for the Super Emeralds. Once super form is activated, there isn't any significant difference based on how she plays. She's super fast, sure, and when you activate her Pico Pico hammer, there's this earthquake effect when she lands on the ground, which does nothing to enemies around her. Look, the novelty of having Amy playable for the first time in forever is cool, but honestly, that's really it for her moveset. I would go in depth to how she plays in the Advance games, mainly Sonic Advance 1, but I'll probably save Sonic Advance as its own video instead of explaining it here. Someone within Sega's development team heard some kind of criticism online, as they noticed in the base Sonic Origins compilation, Knuckles is not a playable character in Sonic CD. Well, in Origins Plus, they fixed this issue, and now all 4 characters are playable in all the 4 main games. Also, now that Amy is a playable character in Sonic CD, if you play as her and reach Collision Chaos Act 1, the part where Metal Sonic kidnaps her is no longer there, obviously. So it's just an open pathway, shaving off a few seconds on your time. Of course, with the inclusion of Amy Rose and Knuckles in Sonic CD means new sprite artwork, mostly for Amy, as her inclusion was worked from scratch. Her sprite art, when she's in the special stages for Sonic 2, CD, and 3K, are really cool, mostly because we're seeing her model in a new perspective. Under the missions section of Origins and under Surprise, there's this neat image of Sonic & Co. celebrating their anniversary, because this game came out on the franchise's 32nd anniversary, so there's that. Okay, now that I'm on the topic of art, I really want to gush over this included 20-page art book we have here. As someone who is practicing character art in my free time, this is a really cool treat to have, and something I argue was worth the $40 price value. Most of the pages here are just concept art regarding the main cast and its compilations. Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Eggman, and Metal Sonic are here, along with concept art for the stages. All the Game Gear games are located in the mission section of the game, and something I noticed, the island for the game's mission section is based off the location from Sonic Spinball, and here's the 8-bit Game Gear game of that here. And then the museum section of the game is based off the Flicky Island from Sonic 3D Blast, and here's its crappier ugly 2D cousin. Why not add the original 16-bit games into this collection too? There's only 2 additional Genesis games, 2 games that Sonic fans are familiar with, so what's really stopping Sega? The Genesis emulator within the Switch online service? Not really. Hell, I'll take the Genesis Mean Bean Machine in this collection too. Then again, with that being said, my final grade for this updated collection that you can get a physical copy of is a B-. You're not really missing much when it comes to the new inclusion of Amy Rose. She's fun to play as for a couple of minutes, but after seeing what she can do, you've seen everything that the new Origins Plus DLC has to offer, aside from the 12 additional Sega games based on the failure Game Gear that you can play on the Switch. Legally, the music for Sonic 3K's Carnival Night, Ice Cap, and Launch Base zones are still the same. Even when the game adds stuff, it doesn't really make any technical fixes that satisfy the consumers. But here's this neat extra section I found in Sonic CD. It's the UI from the Christian Whitehead mobile port. Look, it's still a serviceably good compilation. It's there to increase your Sonic library on consoles and PC. Like, where will you ever see a Sonic 3K and a Sonic CD in the same collection as 12 Game Gear games and Sonic 1 and 2 under one console anyway? Screw you. The point I'm trying to make is that I'm not the kind of Sonic fan who complains about what's there and what isn't there, and unless you're this piece of shit, I can't definitely see the good in most Sonic games. During my time doing some work on the Summer of Kirby Marathon, I was playing Shadow the Hedgehog and got mostly A ranks in 90% of the stages, all morality missions and bosses. And while people say the game is shit because of Shadow's movement being icy, him using guns and vehicles is ridiculous, the mild swearing of damn and hell not fitting the Sonic series, those sound like nitpicks because I actually enjoyed the game. Hell, Shadow doing all this edgy shit doesn't rub me the wrong way in the slightest, because the missions are fun to A rank, weapons are cool to use, and the soundtrack is amazing. I play Kingdom Hearts for Christ's sake, I know what ridiculous looks like. Okay, well, back on topic. While Sonic Origins Plus is gonna leave tons of debate, I assume the addition of Amy Rose as a playable character leads to her being a playable staple in the classic 2D Sonic games, because according to recent announcements from Sega, they announced a fully original 2D Sonic adventure titled Sonic Superstars, where the 4 playable characters from Origins are now playable in this new adventure. No longer are the retro 16-bit sprites and Sega Saturn-like sprites from Sonic Mania. Instead, the entire adventure features our 4 heroes as 3D models in a 3D modeled environment, and it's an original side-scrolling Sonic platformer, the first we have one since Sonic Mania in 2017, and it looks like we'll have more surprises in the game, like the return of Fangs the Sniper from Sonic Triple Trouble. That's very interesting. Can't wait to review this game when it comes out in the fall. I'm genuinely excited for this game's release, among others. My final verdict according to my new grading scale for this software update series on Sonic Origins Plus will be waitlisted. It's a neat novelty to play as Amy Rose in these classic Sonic games, but it does get tiring once you see all that she can do. If you have the game digitally already, there's not enough content to justify a physical release. In terms of the Game Gear games, you probably already own some of them through Sonic Adventure DX or the Mega Collection Plus or the Gems Collection Plus, or through Nintendo's Virtual Console service. But this is still a neat gift to give someone who's new to the franchise. So what are your thoughts on Sonic Origins Plus? What are your favorite Sega Game Gear Sonic games featured in this collection? Did you enjoy playing as Amy Rose in these Sonic games? Let me know in the comments. Also, let me know what you guys think of this new segment on this channel, and if you'd like me to do more of these in the future. I'm Christopher James, and I'll see you next time.
Are you tired of having to store, stack, and carry your favorite Sonic games to your video game console?
Yes.
Are you frustrated with not having all your Sonic games in one place?
Yes.
And do you wish you could play as Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, or Amy Rose in your favorite classic Sonic adventures like Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic CD, Sonic 3, and Knuckles?
Yes.
Well now, you can!